Dajahao, and welcome to Tiny Table Talks with Jack and Tio.
Or as I like to say, TTTWJ&T.
A new podcast that's going to come out weekly or whenever we feel like doing it. First, let's talk about what happened this week. A while ago, we went to a Tibetan Buddhist temple on Wenbi Mountain. It was really exciting. We saw some prayer flags, climbed up some stairs, looked at the pretty statues. Anything else?
And across the valley at Jade Dragon Mountain, super impressive.
In Chinese, Jade Dragon Mountain is Yulong Xueshan.
After visiting the temple, we returned to our host families and threw them a thank you party, which included a rap battle. One of my lines was, "Now we're gonna go hike some more in China, but that's all chill, cause your boy's a fat rhymer."
One of my personal favorites was Tio's opening line, 我们到了南药，吃好饭，教了家人都好看. It was quite the exciting battle, and then we finished it off with a Chinese-style barbecue.
Super fun. We left Lijiang, which was our host family's city, and traveled to Tiger Leaping Gorge.
Then we spent a few days at Tiger Leaping Gorge, hiking through the gorge. We got some great views of Tiger Leaping Rock, the narrowest point in the gorge. We had some great times drinking mate, celebrating my birthday, and eating a great amount of Chinese food.
After Tiger Leaping Gorge, a successful hike, we traveled to Dali, which is our instructor Gong's hometown. Very pretty, quite a touristy town, but spent a couple days here resting, staying in a nice hostel, and today we head to our homestays in Kunming.
Okay, now for our first segment. Today we're going to talk about astrophotography, and then a little bit later we're going to talk about Tiger Leaping Gorge. So first up, astrophotography. Tio and I have been taking some pictures of the stars. Astrophotography is basically just taking pictures of the sky when it's dark out. We both have cameras, and the way it works is you have to set up your camera, point it at the sky. It's a bit tricky focusing it because autofocus doesn't usually work well with stars. So we use manual focus, and then you do what's called a long exposure photo, which is basically leaving the shutter open for longer than usual. So I would say, maybe 5 to 10 seconds?
Sounds about right to me.
About 5 to 10 seconds. And the benefit of that is that you're going to see more light than you can with your eyes, but the downside is that if you leave the shutter open too long, the Earth is going to turn and the stars move in the sky, creating what's called star trails, which are sometimes good, but also sometimes bad.
Some of the items in the sky we're taking pictures of include Orion's belt, who is a Greek hunter. His right toe is shining bright because he just got stung by Scorpio, who's chasing him across the night sky. Also taking pictures of Cassiopeia, who is a famous queen.
We had quite the debate over where Cassiopeia actually was, and I have to admit, Tio was right this time.
Nice.
Surprisingly.
We also took some other cool pictures of things in deep space.
Yeah, some of the things we looked at were the Andromeda Galaxy, which is the closest galaxy to our own Milky Way. It sort of just looks like a fuzzy blob on our cameras, but it is really cool. We're going to upload some of the pictures we took with this new podcast, so hopefully you can see all of those. We also, in the Orion constellation, on Orion's sword, in the middle star of the sword, there's a nebula called the Great Orion Nebula that's also pretty neat looking. We took some pictures of that as well. But all this fun was not without some challenges, right, Tio?
Correct. My trusty tripod that I love so much broke one of its legs off in an accident, and then later on the day another one. So now it's a monopod.
Definitely a monopod.
Which is kind of a bummer, but that's alright.
But it looks like a cool snake. Right?
Successfully holding my camera and 你好。
你好，你们是干嘛的呀？
这搞直播是吧？
说你好吧。说你好。
Hello，
谢谢。
Hello，
这样的，你们会说汉语的。
对. Alright, getting on with our podcast. Next up, I've got a Chengyu to present.
A Chengyu is a 4-character Chinese idiom which uses words to describe a phrase.
So, this week's Chengyu of the Week Jack and Tio podcast, 名落孙山, which means to fall behind Sun Shan. Sun Shan was the name of a scholar slash comedian in ancient China. This comedian.
Thank you.
Thank you. 再见.
Okay, Sun Shan, comedian, scholar in ancient China. He goes to take the imperial examinations. He's takes them, then he's sort of freaking out. The list comes out of who passes. He's losing a little bit. He sees his name, the last one on the list, and he's super relieved. He celebrates and heads home But when he gets home, he sees his old neighbor who asks about his own son, who had also been taking imperial examinations. Sunshan knew that the young man had not passed, but he was kind of nervous and he didn't really want to say it, so he pulled out some of his famous poetry. He said, "Last on the list was Sunshan's name, the young man's after Sunshan's came." And then the old guy basically had no idea what was going on, but then somebody explained it to him and he figured out that his son hadn't passed. If I were him, I'd probably be kind of mad at Sunshan for not just saying it, but
Yeah, you gotta be blunt sometimes.
that's the way of the world, you know? And so now that Chengyu is used to refer to somebody failing a test or examination.
Next segment on today's vlog
One of my favorite segments.
is our favorite dish of the week. And this week I chose all the pork that I ate on barbecue night after our gratitude party with our host family. Super fun. Small table with a little barbecue in the middle, sitting around with a bunch of friends, cooking meat, laughing a bunch, speaking Nashi, which is the local language of Lijiang.
I'd say it was a fairly run-out night, wouldn't you agree?
Runao, which means hot and noisy.
Hot and noisy, one of our favorite new Chinese words. It was an incredibly hot and noisy night. I'd also like to give a special shout out to the napkins I ate at the vegetarian barbecue. I didn't know what they were. I thought they were napkins. They were some kind of bread thing and they tasted delicious.
Sounds good. Next segment is Tiger Leaping Gorge.
Oh, before Tiger Leaping Gorge, I have a special shout out. So in Nanyao, there were lots of tourists. They would ride horses up the hills. And so one day, Tio and I were walking back from classes at our instructor's house, and we happened to pass these horse tourists, and this young Chinese girl, maybe in mid-20s, you think, looks
Sounds
me
about right.
like dead in the eyes. She's like, "Hey, guy."
Hey, guy.
Hey, guy.
So that's a highlight for sure.
That was one of the highlights of my week, definitely.
Tiger Leaping Gorge. What is Tiger Leaping Gorge?
Well, I'm not sure I can really answer that, but there is a big river in the middle, the Yangtze River, I know that, and then on either side there's these incredibly super tall mountains. I think Gong, one of our instructors, was telling me that there's actually a 3-kilometer difference at least between the bottom and the top of the gorge. So as you're hiking through it, we sort of hiked not quite halfway up, but we were high above the river, so you were looking way down at the river and way up at the mountains, and it's beautiful views all around. We spent 2 days and 2 nights in Tiger Leaping Gorge, hiking through, having a great time. Anything to add?
Sheer granite walls, super pretty, super fun.
We also, when we were driving in, we happened to see a new bridge that they're constructing. It's basically going to be, this tunnel comes out of the mountain, and then there's just going to be this massive bridge straight across the gorge, going directly into another tunnel on the other side. It's supposed to be part of this big new highway to Lhasa, which is good for transportation, but it's going to leave a big mark on the region. So we had a few discussions about what we think about that.
Yeah, kind of a bummer looking at the gorge up the river and seeing a huge plot of construction amidst all the greenery and granite. But it'll bring we'll let some new people see the gorge, which will be cool.
Yeah, and it really couldn't take away from the beauty of the mountains. Some of the mountains we saw are locally known as, so they're sort of associated with dragons, so either the dragon's spine or the dragon's teeth. But every morning we would look out and there's just these like chunk, 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 chunk mountains all along.
Yeah, jagged spires of rock. Beautiful.
Very beautiful.
Our last segment is Tio's question of the week.
So every week we're going to give you a question that Tio thought of, and then Tio's going to explain it. Tio, what do you got for us?
So this week I was sitting wondering about what would happen if all of the rain in the world fell at once.
You mean just like
all
just
in one
rained?
big splash.
Just like, so all the rain just
all
like
over the ground.
bloop, and it just sploofs. So
Everywhere.
before you looked it up, what did you think?
I thought it would knock the Earth off of its orbit, send it right into the sun.
I mean, you have like, so, is this like all the water in the world?
All the rain, oh man. I don't know how long we could let it build up for.
But certainly a long time. So
A
you
long
have like,
time. Lots
there's
of
just
water.
like a huge thing of water and it just like hits the ground.
Right.
I think it'd be like one of those things, like you ever seen the picture of like when meteors hit the Earth and it makes like a boof?
Yeah, kind of
I
an
think,
impact wave.
I think we can get that. I mean, it's gotta be going fast.
It's gotta be going fast.
It's gotta be
right?
going fast.
That's high.
Alright, what do you got?
So, we looked it up, and what we figured out is that if 100 kilometers, but 100 kilometers of space was filled with 6 centimeters of water in the air, and it all fell at once. It would weigh 600 million tons.
Holy guacamole.
Yeah, so it would drop in one massive sphere towards the Earth and form into a raindrop. And before it hits the ground, the grass would catch on fire because of the heat of the object moving through the sky. But luckily, seconds after that would happen, a bunch of water would hit it.
Oh,
so,
perfect.
Yeah,
So
eliminates
does
that problem.
Anything bad happen?
If you were in the center of this big blob of water, you wouldn't be able to see sunlight unless you could swim a lot of distance towards the edge, which you could then see a dim light of daylight. But the pressure that would build in the center when it hits the ground the center of the blob, when the blob hits the ground, would kill you pretty quickly.
Oh,
it would be greater than that at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. An omnidirectional wave would shoot out everywhere, and people all over the world would be left wondering what happened. And every time another cloud formed, there would probably be lots of terror.
Probably be pretty good surfing though.
Yeah, good surfing.
Good surfing.
And crops would be weird if that was a normal thing.
What
We'd
if
have
that
to
like
figure that
happened?
out. Hopefully it won't happen. Over me.
Who knows, dude?
Well, that's all for this week's episode of TTTWJ&T. We hope that you liked it, and we might see you next week if we feel like it.
Or something.
再见。
再见，大家。